Hey, it's me, Brianka J, and you're back for another episode of Book Talk. So, if you are new here, we talk everything books. So, if you're a book lover who likes analysis, theory, reviews, and short stories, go ahead and click subscribe because this is the channel for you. What's up, guys? It's me, Brianka J, and thank you for coming to my little corner of the internet where we talk all things books. If you haven't guessed by the title, we're digging back into Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, and today we are actually going to talk about. Let's get into her reading guide. We'll get into her reading guide, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about like her own personal reflections, and then we'll also talk about LeVar Burton's reflections of the work. Apparently, he's a really big fan and he wrote the foreword, so we'll get into that. But for today, we're going to do the reading group questions, topics for discussion. So I'll like tell you guys what the question is, the topic is. I'll give my reflection. You can use this for your essays like most of you do, or we can just have a good discussion. Leave your thoughts in the comments. You know how we get down here. And if you're new here, well, I'm sure you'll catch on really, really quickly because it is simple. We say what we want, we do what we want, and we like to read books. Okay, so let's see. So the first one says, Lauren Olamina has hyper-empathy syndrome, an illness that gives her the delusion that she feels both pain and pleasure of those around her. Do you think it is significant that this is a congenital disease she contracted because her mother was a drug abuser? How has this illness made Lauren different from those around her? Why was she unable to tell anyone about it? Why do you suppose it's significant to the story that she has this illness? Okay, so I think I kind of touched on this like a little bit in my first reflections. I wasn't really buying the whole illness thing. Like that part of the novel just didn't seem developed enough for me. And I was thinking about it and I was like, well, if she could feel the pain and pleasure of everybody around her, then why, when like the couples would go off to make love, she didn't feel their pleasure? Like it seemed like she was more feeling of pain than she was of pleasure, to be honest. And even when she would feel that pain, I just don't think it was like developed enough for me to really believe in it. And then when they talk about now, in terms of the pills her mom was taking when she was a kid and how they landed into her empathy delusional syndrome, I don't know. And then she says she wasn't able to tell anyone about it. Now they did try, so Octavia Butler did try to develop this a little bit more, like, oh, if you're a sharer, then people will use that against you and they'll play upon your weaknesses. You are likely to find yourself encapsulated, used as a slave, like because your hyper empathy made you a good slave, which I don't know how that would work because slave labor is very painful. So one of the slaves gets hurt. Now you have a whole herd of slaves out here saying bleeding out. I just think it needs to be developed more. Like it just didn't sit well with me. Okay, so the second question says, why does Joe react so negatively to Lauren's concerns about being better prepared as a community and as individuals to face crises? Do you think that Lauren's ideas, including community night watches, learning to fend for themselves in the wild, studying local wild plant to see if it can be used for food, are excessively paranoid? Lauren's father has pointed out that the community as a whole has trouble thinking far ahead into such sensitive areas. Do you see ways in which people in today's America are equally unable to think ahead? So funny I talked about this, and I was telling a friend of mine, I was like, I think that the inability to think ahead is so detrimental to the future of like families. Like I think that people that really struggle with like money and finances, like they're not poor but they tend to struggle, I think that is a reflection of the inability to think ahead. And I think that it kind of lands you in crisis after crisis when you operate that way, and it's like a really dangerous way to be, because like I think they even say how most Americans don't have $500 available to them if they need to go to like an emergency room. And I think that's really sad because I think the average American household is at $72,000. And so then that raises the question of what's happening, how are we prioritizing? Because yes, I do believe there's like issues of inflation, of course, but there is also the issue of capitalism and the desire to want more and more, and the excessive amount of ads that we're confronted with that tempt us on a regular basis. And I think that in that way, people today are unable to think ahead. I do, and I mean, like what Lauren was talking about, like, oh, we need to start preparing for doomsday. That's a thing that's never going to go away. People have been preparing for doomsday since the beginning of time. They had doomsday sellers. They had the preparation of the 2000 end of the world. Now people are doing homesteading and they're learning to fend for themselves, and people are, learning to carry guns. Like, people are trying to find ways to feel safe. And I think that Lauren's ideas, as we can see, as we are, traveling through the internet from time to time, aren't so unusual. A lot of people are putting their efforts in that way. So it's kind of torn. Some people are preparing and they're in extreme paranoia, and then some people are choosing to absolutely overlook crisis and be concerned at all. And it's just a question of what kind of person are you? The third question is, Earthseed can be described as a cold religion since it has such an impersonal personal God. Is there anything about it that you think could be described as comforting or liberating? Do you believe God has a consciousness, is a thinking being, or is Earthseed a system of beliefs that appeals to you? What are your feelings about religion? That is a really personal question. I can't believe I put that in the book. I heard her, and I think overall, though I do have my own personal beliefs on religion, I do conform to a branch of Christianity. I think that religion is an extremely personal idea. Never would I push someone to believe what I believe, and never would I think it's okay for someone to push me to believe what they believe. I think that religion operates in a way to bring organization to our world, to help us have organization and understanding and of collective purpose. And I think in that way it's great, because the worst thing that people can be, and I've even experienced it, is this sense of apatheticness, right? Where nothing matters and you don't care about anything. I think that's much more dangerous than anything else, right? Just becoming apathetic to your world. And so I think that religion calls on us to think of, how to be a good neighbor, how to be a good community member, how to think beyond ourselves and learn to serve others. And I think that is natural in all religions. And so in that way, I think that religion is very healthy. And I think that whatever religion a person chooses, if it's comforting to them and it feels right to them, if it liberates them, I have no real opinion on it, right? I'm more whatever you need to do to not, lose your shit is I agree with it and I accept it. Earthseed had good beliefs. It had interesting beliefs. It wasn't something that I felt moved by. I kind of just didn't really care about her opinions on that. And I think most of her band of disciples didn't either, but it was, again, I think they tolerated the same way I tolerated, as in if that's what moves you and that's what gives you a sense of purpose, then who am I to argue about it and against it? I wouldn't do that. Let's do one more question. It's 9 total. We'll do one more and then we'll wrap it up because I think I'm tired. So the last one says, the near future of parable of the sower reflects an America steeped in chaos, with relentless poverty and lawlessness. Education is no longer guaranteed for everyone, and violence is rampant. The author has said that she came to this vision of the future by imagining our current woes, progressing unchecked to their logical ends. Do you agree or disagree that it is a possible future for America in terms of government and societal stability, as well as future technological advances? In what ways do you believe America will change in the next 2 decades? Do you think they'll be better or worse than they are now? Let's start with the first question. Do I think that this vision of America is possible? The book was set in 2024. It is 2024. Though we've had issues with they had issues with agriculture, and she kind of said the country folded in on itself with agriculture and climate change. And I think in those ways, we're seeing the effects of it now. It's not anywhere near detrimental as this book is showing it to be. And I couldn't even project where it's gonna go. Like, we're already seeing things like, freezes in Texas, and I'm living in Ohio, and it's like 60 degrees in January, or February. So I don't know. Like, that's such a loaded question. I don't know. I don't know if my brain's shutting down because it's like I did take some ZQL. I did. I'm sorry. What ways do I think America will change in the next 2 decades? You know what? I think it's so hard to say. Because I thought we were going to have flying cars. All we got was creepy pictures and you not knowing if it's real or fake. Deep fakes. So I think we are becoming a dumber society in a lot of ways. Like, our literacy rate is slowing down. Our ability to formulate simple tasks without machinery is slowing down. And I think that's scary. But we also are seeing a resurgence of tradition. We're seeing an extreme resurgence of tradition, of learning to do things on our own, of baking our own bread, of being careful about ingredients. So I am seeing like the world is changing, capitalism is becoming a lot more aggressive, and technological advancement is becoming a lot more normal. We are seeing people who are being logically and thoughtfully of like, hey, I'm going to approach this in a different way. Because as all of the things are happening, we're not making much more money. And so we're learning how to get back to our roots, and people are buying chickens and learning to knit and baking fresh bread with 4 ingredients and thinking about whole foods. So I'm not a person that has like a bleak view of the world. I think that the world is becoming scary because greed is becoming more rampant. I'm seeing human beings really pivot in a way that I wouldn't have expected. And I think that's what makes life so amazing. It's so hard to determine how people are going to interact with the changes of the world around us. And I think that's what makes living so exciting, because you don't know. And I think I'm not the kind of person that's going to say like, oh, the world's going to go to shit in 20 years. I don't think so. I think that people are so resilient, and even in this book, so resilient, that there will always be hope for our future. I'm going to leave it on that note, and then I'm going to wish y'all a good evening and a happy Black History Month, and invite you to go ahead, subscribe to the channel, and like and comment if you feel moved to do so. I will be back soon. I actually started off reading The Spook Who Sat by the Door of the chapter 4, but the pages in the PDF went away. So I need to find a new copy, and then I will come back and we will discuss chapter 4, and we'll also discuss some more about this work. And I think you guys really liked the Heaven and Earth series, so I'll even come back with some more information about that work. And other than that, I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.